Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'd like to expound a little bit on what you were saying. And Mr. Wilson, thank you so much for being here. I'm a conservative Republican. I think we do need to save tax dollars, so I want that on the record. I'm also a respiratory therapist by training. I also owned a HME, DME company back in the 80s and 90s. My mother had emphysema, COPD. My mother passed away. She was on oxygen. And I can tell you, if my mother had had to depend on a supplier from a different state or a different region for her health care, my mother would have died years earlier. She would have ended up in the emergency room much more often. There would have been no way in her chronic health condition she would have been able to stay at home. Now, with all that said, going back to me being a conservative Republican, would it have been in the best interest of the taxpayers of America to have had my mother either, number one, pass away years earlier, or number two, end up in the emergency room much more often, which is much more costly, or number three, ended up in a nursing home, which would have been at least 10 times more expensive than having a home oxygen. So I think we have to take all of these things into consideration when we make these decisions. I was also a surveyor for Joint Commission on Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations. So I visited healthcare DME companies all across America. I saw some good ones, quite frankly, saw some bad ones. And if we're going to pass policy in Washington, I don't think we ought to be passing policy to punish good suppliers or pass policy that's going to take away services from American senior adults. I think we need to pass policy. If someone's breaking a rule or a fraudulent actor, go after them. Throw the book at them. But don't go after the 97% of suppliers that are doing the right thing. Have you done a study? Can you tell me how much 1 month on home oxygen cost? And then can you compare that to what 1 month in a hospital would cost, or 1 day in a hospital would cost?
Let me deal with the last question first. We pay about $200 a month for oxygen rental of equipment. There are additional payments, I think in the area of about $70 for portable tanks. Depending on the technology, there might be additional add-on of $50 or so if there's a certain types of new technology.
So about $300 a month for home oxygen?
Probably $300 a month, maybe a little bit more, and certainly a hospital stay can be, depending on the diagnosis, can be anywhere from $8,000, $20,000, $30,000 just for a couple of days in the hospital.
Now, putting back on my conservative Republican hat, doesn't seem like a good process for the American taxpayer. We need to look at this on several fronts: quality front, affordability front, the taxpayer front, and I just hope that we do those things. And then, being a former Joint Commission surveyor, I hope that when we make these decisions and we start to looking at who's going to win these competitive bids, that we use some common sense. I'm hearing stories of people in Asheville, North Carolina that need home oxygen and health care. Actually, their contracts are being won by companies in different states. I can tell you, when an oxygen machine goes down or a tank runs out at 2 o'clock in the morning, they have to have care. And I don't think that many people in Congress understand that for that $300 that you said they're paid now, they have to have respiratory therapists, they have to have people to deliver, they have to pay the gas prices to get there. It's not just a piece of equipment that you drop off and you never see again until the patient dies. It's one of those things where you actually have to have some hands-on with the beneficiary. So I just hope as we're awarding these contracts that we're looking at cost and quality. And I yield back.